I never talked to them boys that sat on them benches. I was in the game on 4th and inches. Coach, 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 coach,
Now it's time to go to work. What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, and the 863 tribe? It is your boy, POLK, a.k.a. A-Lo, a.k.a. the goddamn Trizuth. And we are in for an action, well, a lot of information here tonight. So tonight will be, as they say in the military, tonight we train to standard, not to time. So tonight we're going to go as long as this live stream goes, because for one, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. For two, this is the last time y'all going to see me until August. No, it is August. Excuse me, till September. Remember, y'all aren't going to see me until LSU time. So, being that this is the last video until then, and we have so much stuff to talk about, and I will be doing a game-by-game prediction tonight. You're in for the long haul tonight, folks. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we're in for a long haul. So sit back, enjoy, hit that like button. Again, subscribe if you're new. Share the video, man. Let everybody know we are live on the most interactive show on YouTube that has anything to do with Florida State Seminole football. And yes, that is Gatorade. Anybody who drinks Powerade, I think you're a terrorist. We are on the most interactive YouTube channel when it comes to this Florida State football content. That is your boy, 863 Seminole TV. Like, share, subscribe. Get in that comment section. We're going to hit a roll call here quick. I don't want to waste too much time because, like I said, there's just a lot of stuff to talk about, man. There's a lot to talk about, man. Coaches' interviews today. Mike Norvell did a 30-minute interview. Just realignment, right? That's the major topic that everybody's talking about. We're going to dive a little bit on that, just a little bit. Because I'm not – anyways, I'll explain when we get there. We got a big commitment looming this Saturday. Could FSU be in the mix for another big-time commitment? I don't know, man. We'll find out. We're going to go over everything Mike Norvell discussed today, even some of the positions and coaches, what they mentioned. We got a roster to talk about. Y'all are going to get my projection of the roster, offense and defense, and then we go into game-by-game predictions, scores, all that. So if that's what you're here for, you came to the right spot tonight. So again, hit a like, subscribe, and share real quick, and then we're going to get right into the stuff. I'm going to do a quick roll call real quick. So again, get in that comment section. Say whatever it is you got to say, because we're going to do a roll call here shortly. In about 30 seconds, we're going to hit the 15-minute mark. We're going to hit a roll call real quick. And then we're going to get into this, the news. So we're just going to get into the discussion points. We're going to get into the discussion points. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got 10 seconds. Don't worry. Get the likes up, too. Get the likes up. Get the likes up. Don't forget to hit that super chant if you feel so generous as to do so. But if more than anything, man, just get the likes up. Just get the likes up and share the video. Any super chat is a flat-out bonus. Let's get it cracking. Let's stop playing. Terrell Thomas is in the building. Island Boy. Jeff. Peter Shields. Well, let me start over. Island Boy. Jeff, member of the 863 tribe. Terrell Thomas. Peter Shields, member of the 863 tribe. Let's get it. Jason, member of the 863 tribe. Insane Mob. Matthew. EMG. Briley. Priscilla, Tyler, head member of the 863 tribe, Travis, and Chris Robinson, all in the chat as of right now. As you come in, don't forget, hit that like button. Get in that chat room. Caveman's in the building. What is good with you? Let's start with Robert Laster in the building. What's good with you? We're going to start with KJ. Now, this one's interesting, guys. Char in the building. We're going to start with KJ. Now, I'm not one to gloat, though I do occasionally toot my own horn. We've done a good job this so far in the month of July of really predicting Darren Hill in the building, really predicting accurately who's come. Matter of fact, the only person that we missed on, when I say we, 863 Tribe and this channel, the only person that we missed on was Kevin Levy. Everybody else so far, from Dede Holmes, Ricky Knight, Elijah Moore, James Madison, Kylan Fox, Charles West, all of the above. We have Jalewis Solomon. Again, I told you I didn't feel good about Jalewis. Well, it's looking like that's trending towards South Carolina. So it looks like we'll be accurate on Jalewis as well. Kevin Levy is the only one that I thought FSU had and that we didn't get. And there was some stuff that developed there late with, I guess, him not being a take. You know how that goes. Anyway, that ended up being the case with Levy, the only guy we really missed out on. And, of course, I accurately predicted Trader. And if you remember, I said I always felt better that we were in a better spot for KJ than Trader. And to this day, obviously, I stand by that. Here's the thing. I said all of that to say this. I cannot predict this recruitment. This one has me 50-50. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what's real, what's fake, what's smoke, and what's fire in this instance. I really see it all as a 50-50 thing at this point. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I feel Auburn, like just emerged out of nowhere. And when it comes to Auburn is one of two things. It's either legit, obviously, or this is a major smoke screen. I am almost to the point where I would say KJ goes anywhere but Georgia. But I can't even say that. I struggle with figuring out, is Auburn real or is it a smoke screen? The part of me that says it's a smoke screen is because they came out of nowhere, emerged out of nowhere, and seemingly jumped Georgia as the number one option. Auburn, everybody that reports for Auburn, everybody involved in with that program thinks Auburn's the favorite. They also mentioned Florida State as the second running, but we'll get to Florida State here in a second. We want to talk about Auburn right quick. Auburn comes out of nowhere and just jumps Georgia. Georgia is no longer even being mentioned if you really notice what a lot of people are saying. Now, those that are kind of, I guess, smart aren't discounting Georgia, nor should you discount Georgia, right? The reason I lean, well, again, I'm 50-50, so I don't lean either way. The one half of me that says smokescreen is saying because Auburn comes out of nowhere, almost as if KJ is intentionally putting Auburn at the forefront so Georgia can sneak in the back door and go to where everybody kind of expects him to go, and that is the Georgia Bulldogs. Here's why Auburn might be for real. They just flipped 5 stars from both Georgia and Alabama within the last, week or two? Auburn has legit flipped 5-star players from the top 2 premier programs in the SEC. So Hugh Freeze has just already shown you he's not about the games, and he's putting in serious work on the trail. And before you get in the comments and tell me that they dropping bags, that's the played out point at this point, people. Who cares if they're dropping bags? The entire country's dropping bags. You either get with the program or you get lost. So I don't want to hear, Auburn's only doing this because they're paying money. So what? Get with it, get lost. That's no longer an excuse. To the point, that makes me feel that they're a legit contender in this, and that maybe this isn't a smoke screen. When you just in a week, you stuff Kirby and Nick Saban in lockers for 2 of their 5 stars, all bets may be off at this point. All bets may be off. I cannot predict KJ. I'll be honest with you. Also, the man has family in Ohio State. They have to be in the running as well. He has family at Ohio State. Auburn's playing for real on the trail. And Georgia's Georgia. And he's been linked to that program from the jump. And, of course, Florida State is the so-called dream school. Charles Lester commits. Is there a connection there? Can Charles Lester maybe seal the deal for us? I said the night that Charles Lester committed, go check it. Go check the video. Go check the live stream. What did I say? I said Charles Lester might be that bell cow defensively that we need. The caliber of player that is, other people want to play with him. Well, you can't do nothing but respect that. Is Lester going to have that effect on KJ Bolden? I honestly believe it is a toss-up at this point. I can't predict it. And y'all know me. I'm not shy about telling you, yeah, I think we got him or we don't got him. I can't really put a finger on KJ at this point. I think he's done a masterful job so far with his recruitment. And I also think no matter where he picks on August 5th, it's probably not done no matter where he goes. I don't think anybody's going to give up on that commitment. And, of course, you can say that about any commitment, that it's not over until it's over. But I know if Florida State doesn't seal his commitment on the 5th, they're still going to recruit him hard, do everything they can to get him on the campus November 11th versus Miami and try to steal that one down the stretch. But the KJ Bolden recruitment is one of the harder ones that I've had to follow in recent times. And like I said, y'all know me, man. I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually pretty good at predicting these things. At least I feel like I am. And this one, I really can't. I can't put a finger on KJ, man. I can't put a finger on KJ. But I see some super chats, man. So we got to get to these super chats. And, of course, hit the like button. Hit the like button. My man Jeff with the $10 dono. He says, think Auburn smoke. I think it's between Georgia and FSU. I'm going to make a bold prediction. A bold prediction is that he comes to Florida State. Hey, I love the confidence, man. And I don't blame you for again, Auburn. I don't blame you. Like Auburn, I can't put a finger on it. I see the smoke screen, but I also see where it could be legit. So appreciate that $10, Jeff, as always.
Never Jeff.
Holy cow. My main man, Chris, with a 50. Man, Chris, you done. Chris, man, you done. I love you, man. You do it to me all the time. I love you. Shout out to Chris, you guys. Shout out to Chris, so you already know what that means.
50. I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Says, what up, POLK Orlando on the check-in. Thanks for holding it down all off season. Hey, man, thank you for supporting me. And you continue to support me through the off season and through the season, man. And Chris, you're gonna get. I got you, Chris. I got you.
Yeah, more money. Yeah, more money. Yeah.
There we go. Let's see what y'all talking about, man. Insane thanks. Bolden's coming to Florida State. I feel you. FSU is the common denominator. Matthew feels the same as Insane. All these other schools just saying it's us versus FSU. I think Georgia's more of the common denominator, though I understand where you come from with the FSU thing. But again, nobody's dropped or flipped their crystal balls or predictions. Everybody that's picked Georgia has stuck with Georgia up until this point. again, which also makes me think Auburn's a bit of a smoke screen. I think Georgia is in it. But I also, again, I flip flop every time I think about it, because I can see a case where he goes anywhere but Georgia at this point. I can also see the case where he doesn't, like, it's Georgia and everybody else. With all of his teammates that are committed to Georgia in that school, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there. Jeff Allen says if he is truly Nole-blooded, it's a lock. Well, we've heard that before. Auburn will not beat out FSU for Bolden. They may not. They may not. Champ says nobody drops bag like Hugh Freeze. Again, it's 2023. Everybody drops bags. It's no longer an excuse. No longer an excuse. And Captain Noel, whoops. Oh, let me put you on here. With the $20 donation, or $19.99. I just round you up. I give you the pennies, no big deal. No message. Just drops the $20. Appreciate that, Captain Noel. Appreciate that.
Tell ass on with the Seminoles. I've been getting to this paper, focus on my goals. Trying to run this money up and pull up in a row. All this talking gangster, that shit getting old.
Bolden going to Colorado. Well, that's one thing we know is not going to happen. These insiders don't know S. Amen. You said it, not me. But yeah, man, that's the first thing on the checklist tonight, man. The KJ Bolden thing. My prediction, legit don't know. I can't figure it out. I'm gonna be as surprised as anybody wherever he chooses to go. Auburn has surged. Florida State's always been in the mix. I don't know if Georgia's ever really fell off. And then, of course, the family members at Ohio State keeps them in the mix. It wouldn't even shock me if you chose Ohio State when it's all said and done. But let's move on from KJ Bolden, man. August 5th, that's this Saturday. We will find out what's going on with KJ. So we're going to move on from KJ. And I'm going to touch briefly. I want to touch briefly on realignment. I want to touch briefly. And I'm not going to get in the weeds here for a couple reasons. And one of the main reasons I'm not going to get in the weeds here, I get tired of this conversation because let me be as nice as possible. But I'm listening. You listen to people that talk about this stuff. You don't have a law degree. I don't even think you know how to read a contract like the grant of rights. Have you even read an 800-page document like the grant of rights? I don't know how many pages. I'm exaggerating there, but you get what I'm saying. You haven't read it. You don't know how to read it. If you did try to read it, you wouldn't know. Most people aren't going to take the time to read it unless you get paid to. But you just have a lot of people, man, that talk about this grant of rights as if they know what the hell they're talking about. And it really kind of frustrates me. Y'all know me. I'm just a light-skinned dude on the computer. Just a light-skinned dude on YouTube. I don't know nothing. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know anything about the damn grant of rights. But here's what I know. Here's what I think I know. Here's what I can intelligently guesstimate. Florida State is getting out of the ACC. The boosters, the president, everybody's on board. They would not be making the statements that they are making unless the lawyers that have read that document have given them some favorable information, in my opinion. Now, where they end up, I don't know. I don't know if it's the Big Ten or the SEC. I've always favored the Big Ten personally, though I would care less if they went SEC or either, but I've always favored the Big Ten just because there's more revenue in the Big Ten. I understand people that favor the SEC because it's more regional and you get you're going to get all the Southeastern matchups in the SEC, the Florida States versus the Georgias and Tennessees and all those schools that you competitively recruit against, you're going to get those matchups in the SEC. While the Big Ten gives you some premier matchups that we haven't seen in a while, but it's not regional, but also the cut of the pie is a lot bigger. So therefore, Florida State stands to make more money. So that's all any of us really know. You get what I'm saying? Is that FSU is actively looking to get out. You know, they did this whole big thing today, and I honestly didn't waste my time watching it. I don't really feel like anything of relevant information came out that we kind of already didn't know. Basically, Florida State saying they're not going to stay in pat, and they are going to, again, actively pursue to try to get out of the ACC. Of course, ACC fans of other ACC schools, for some reason, are upset about that, which is so interesting to me. But I think they understand once Florida State dips that the conference as a whole then begins to collapse. And if you're Louisville, if you're Syracuse, if you're one of those type of schools, Wake Forest, you have to really question where's your home at this point. Clemson will find a home, which Clemson has been linked to us. Miami will find a home eventually. North Carolina will find a home. Certain programs in the ACC will be just fine. Other programs may struggle with finding a home. And I can understand that they are a little worried. And because of their worry, then they have to downplay Florida State. Who do they think they are to ask to get out of the conference? And they haven't won anything recently. Blase. Forget that we dominated the conference the moment we stepped into it and all that other stuff. The facts are, even in our down years, we're the main driving force of the ACC and we continue to keep it relevant. That is really my take on realignment, guys. You know where I stand with it. Obviously, I've been always wanted to get out of this conference. You know what conference I would prefer, though I could care which one we go to. But me trying to sit here and pretend to dig into the grant of rights and like I know anything about that is not the game I like to play with y'all. So I'm not going to waste your time nor my time pretending like I know anything about the grant of rights like I've heard people try to do. Okay? Now, some people have some information that they're being told and they are able to share that information, and that's fine. But I'm not going to pretend and speak on something that I don't even quite understand. So that's really all I want to touch on, man, with the realignment. It's going to continue to be a hot topic. If you want to listen to people that kind of really know what they're talking about, or honestly, from who I listened to, Mark Rogers had a guy on there. I don't even know this guy's name, but he did a pretty good job of covering. Mark Rogers in general has done, I think, a fairly decent job of covering the grant of rights as a whole. That's just one source that I've listened to. Again, and a lot of it's still speculation. Like, unless you got a law degree and you went to school and you're a lawyer and that's your, you know how to read over a contract. Everything else is just hearsay because you're just saying what you've heard someone else say. So I'm not going to waste y'all any more time on the grant of rights stuff, man. But feel free to comment on that if y'all care to. I got another super chat I need to get to. My man Jeff with the $10 says, anything can happen. I don't predict that we're going to leave the conference early, but you never know. I still think it won't take until 2024 is when it – I still think it won't be until 2024 when we will announce, but we will see. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be sooner than maybe some of us originally thought, though I don't know how soon. But if you ask me, it's 2023 right now. FSU will leave the ACC, or at least announce. It will be announced where they're going. I'm going to say by 2025. And that could be me being generous. Like, it could be way earlier than that. But we'll definitely know something by then. We'll definitely know something by then. But again, man, appreciate you, Jeff, with the $10 donation.
My name is Jeff.
Clank, clickety, clank. The money goes into my piggy bank.
Charax, have you heard anything about the NCAA turning? No. I think Mike was asked about that today. I don't know, Coach no, not Odell. Adam Fuller, that is, was asked about it, and he said they're continuing to practice Jackson until he's told otherwise. But no decision has been made. So anybody that's saying that the NCAA has turned it down, unless that information just came down within like the last hour and I haven't seen it, yeah, that's not true. Just we remain the same. No decision made on Jackson, but he is practicing as if he will play. Tyler says the thing that kills me is when people say money isn't the thing that has kept us from competing. Like we are talking about the past at all. Tyler says also he thinks it's going to be the SEC and Big at the top. Big 12 will be a distinct third, and the ACC and Pac-12 teams will be left. That's probably exactly what's going to happen. I think the ACC and the Pac-12 ends up merging in some shape, form, or fashion. The Big 12 will pick a couple schools. Like they've already picked Colorado from the Pac-12. I think there's supposed to be another school announcing here shortly for the Big 12 out of the Pac-12. And then I think once that first domino falls in the ACC, that's what will happen with the ACC. They'll merge. The Big 12 will pick off a couple schools, and then they'll merge with the Pac-12. Jeff with another $5. He says, yeah, other networks on channels are pissed at Florida State, but no one said a word when Texas and Oklahoma were leaving. Well, I'm sure the Big 12 schools were probably very pissed that Texas and Oklahoma were leaving. Obviously, we didn't care, right? Because we're in the ACC. So I understand the ACC schools being worried, but don't throw rocks at the throne because we're trying to get out of this a terrible conference that it's been for such a long time. Don't throw rocks at the throne, man. Once again, Jeff, you just continue to bless me. Thank you so much.
Bitch, be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
904 Davis is in the building. I've also heard this argument, which makes zero sense to me. Last time I checked, there was a time when Florida State was in the ACC, Miami was in the Big East, and the rivalry remained. So I don't understand the notion that we would give up that rivalry. You would still have an out-of-conference game, if not two out-of-conference games. So I don't understand the notion that we would give up the rivalry just because we joined the Big Ten. And who's to say Miami's going to follow us to either conference, whether it's the SEC or the Big Ten? Last time I checked, Miami's not being mentioned in any of these discussions with conference realignment as of right now. And I'm going to tell you the one main thing that's working against Miami. It's not their brand. Miami has a big national brand. Matter of fact, no matter where I go in the country, I always see a U somewhere. That's just a fact. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, right? I always see somebody representing the Hurricanes, no matter where I go, and I travel a lot, obviously. The problem with Miami, the reason why I don't think people are or conferences are actively engaging with Miami, they don't have a fan base that travels. Hell, the fan base won't even travel at home. And that matters when you're talking about selling tickets and filling up stadiums. Florida State's fan base will travel. They will travel, especially if the Noles are good regardless, but they will travel. Miami don't fill up its own stadium unless Florida State's coming to town. It's going to be hard to pitch to any of these other major conferences. Well, what is Miami necessarily bringing? Even though the brand is nationwide and people love the U nationwide, are those same people going to games nationwide? Nah, they're not doing it. So there's things that work in Miami's favors and there's things that works against Miami. I do think the media market might work in Miami's favor with the South Florida market. People probably will watch it on TV. But as far as does Ohio State want to approve Miami to come to their conference only for Ohio State then to go play in front of 15,000 people? Granted, you can make the argument, okay, Miami fans will turn up for Ohio State, and maybe they will. And maybe they will turn up for Michigan and Ohio State. Just like they'll turn up for Florida State and Clemson. But what about Wisconsin? What about let's talk SEC? What about Missouri? What about Kentucky? Nobody, Miami fans aren't turning into those games. So that's just something that works against Miami, in my opinion. Get to the comment section real quick. I think it would be awesome to have our 2 out-of-conference games every year be UF and Miami. Bingo. That's what it would be if Miami doesn't come with us. I'm not sure if they do or don't. My personal opinion is I would be honest with you, forget Clemson. I know Clemson fans won't want to hear that. I would drag Miami with us if possible. Not so much Clemson. But Clemson's more appealing than Miami. My biggest problem, people think recent on-field success will stop a top conference from pursuing. That's not why they're pursuing. This example has been used, but the Big Ten didn't add Rutgers because Rutgers was some football juggernaut. Instead, you know what Rutgers brought? I don't know, the New York market with it. That's why they added it. It's going to be the same thing with the Big Ten. And I think the Big Ten wants a market in the South. They have the West Coast. They have the East Coast. They have L.A., New York. They're going to want the Southeast. Florida State fits the bill. I'm going to tell you another team that fits the bill that no one's talking about, and that's Georgia Tech. They also fit that bill. And Georgia Tech is a high academics institution. So the Big Ten could be very interested in Georgia Tech. So you're absolutely right, though, Ardavius. It's not about on-field success. Is why Texas A&M, when SEC added Texas A&M, they didn't add Texas A&M because they were a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 team at the time when the SEC added them. Same thing with Missouri. You think the SEC added Missouri and Texas A&M because they were getting a skull dragged by Oklahoma and Texas, like the rest of the Big 12 was. They added it to extend their coverage in the South. What's up, Zozuki? Well, see, Marco, that's what the LSU fans say. Not LSU, I'm sorry. Louisville and all you other ACC hand pumpers, whatever. That's what y'all keep saying, except, again, the people that actually know and the people that get paid a lot of money to make that decision are saying otherwise. So FSU will be out of the ACC by 2030. I will almost guarantee you that. Because everybody that's making that decision has said that. So I'm sorry that I know you don't want that to happen because, again, I know you're nervous that once Florida State, the ACC crumbles and you don't know where you're going to end up. I get that. But you got to face reality at some point. Miami ends up in the Sun Belt. Zoe says, honestly, the only people who care about the rivalry is old school fans. These new kids don't care. We need to move on from Miami and go spread our brand. I would keep the rivalry, but that's just me. If the new kids don't care, it's because we haven't given them a reason to care. And by that, I mean the schools haven't given them a reason to care. Who says they can't give them a reason to care? And Pac-12 is folding. So let's move on, man. Again, I'm not gonna continue to talk realignment. Right? I told you my thoughts on it, what we know, what we don't know. And to speculate any further on what year, how much money it's going to be, we got to pay X amount of dollars, and we'll get this amount of dollars in revenue, and that is compensate for what we're losing, bro. Bunch of numbers that people are spewing that I honestly don't believe anybody knows any of that yet. If it was that simple, the deals would be done. I don't believe it's that simple. So again, I'm not going to sit here and speculate on that. What we are going to do, we're going to move on, man, to Mike Norvell and company doing their interviews today. And I want to talk about a little bit things that Mike Norvell discussed. So Mike Norvell mentioned a couple interesting things in today's interview that I was glad to kind of hear him say, because it tells me that obviously he's aware of it, which a good coach should be aware and should have the pulse of his team. And he mentioned some of the things that I have been worried about when talking about some of the pitfalls for Florida State this upcoming season. And I don't believe it has anything to do with opponents this upcoming season. I really believe it has everything to do with FSU. FSU might be their own worst enemy this upcoming season. Depth, and not in the negative sense of depth. Mike Norvell is aware that, one, there are going to be people who have started a bunch of games on this team who might not, probably won't start this year. When the coaches are opening, I don't know why that's hard for me to say right now. When the coaches are openly acknowledging that you might not start, though you started a ton of games for us, there's no surprises. So that is a problem that the coaches understand is on the horizon. There are going to be people that potentially get their feelings hurt. There are going to be people who may have started at other places and are going to come here and not start and get their feelings hurt. Depth is going to be key. And he also acknowledged, when you have that depth, how do you keep everybody happy? So not only will some people not play that are planning to play or think they may deserve to play, but we've spoken about this multiple times. There's a ton of weapons. And I've been very vocal about how do we go about addressing those weapons? Do we change our offensive philosophy? Are we passing the ball a lot more? What are we doing? We are a running team. We've been a running team since Mike Norvell's been here. So, and I want to keep that mentality. I think anybody that understands the way this team is built wants to keep that mentality. And Mike Norvell is under the same impression. And he also acknowledges, hey, I got a lot of guys that are going to be expecting a lot of opportunities, and it's my job to get them there, but also it's their job to understand maybe the betterment of the football team. So I thought it was good that he acknowledged that and discussed that a little bit. I thought that was, show some self-awareness. And they're going to, he mentioned that, they're going to face some challenges as a staff that they haven't had to deal with since they've been there. And they're good problems to have, but it's going to be maybe a new challenge for them. And I'm interested to see how, again, because I think that is our main, should be our main worry, is can we appease everybody? We're going to talk about the depth chart later, but for instance, what if Robert Scott isn't starting for you this year? How do you keep him engaged? How do you keep him engaged? Now, I don't think Robert Scott is the kind of guy to, you know what I mean? Like, not start and turn his back. But what I am saying, I'm just using him as an example. There may very well be some guys who plan on getting some reps that don't get them. How does Joshua Farmer behave? A guy who already intended to hit the portal, if Darryl Jackson's waiver gets approved, and now, maybe your top 3 rotation is Fisk, Lovett, and Jackson. Maybe Farmer's in a competition with Daniel Lyons and some of these other young guys. Maybe they've improved to the point where he doesn't separate himself as much. Malcolm Ray's still in the mix. Dennis Briggs, there's going to be some guys, right? There's going to be some guys whose snaps are going to be cut. How do you keep them engaged? Can you keep them engaged? Going to be very interesting, man. Going to be very interesting. The DB room was also talked about. Some interesting tidbits from the DB room. Kevin Knowles at 190. And Kevin Knowles making that move to safety that some people had talked about, and seeming like he's actually ahead of schedule on some of the injury stuff that was reported for him during the spring. So he may actually not miss a major portion of the season. Like it was originally thought. So that's going to be interesting to see there. Kevin Knowles at safety. Put in the comments your thoughts on Kevin Knowles at safety. Do you like that? They did mention Kevin Knowles will be safety and still play the nickel as well. So rotate in and out there. So put your thoughts in the chat. What you think about Knowles at safety? KJ Kirkland was a name that got mentioned. Coach Surtain mentioned, of course, Ronaldo Green, AZ, and Fentrell all kind of getting the praise and recognition, and they have big expectations from AZ this year. So we'll see what happens. And Kirkland, the guy that we didn't get to see in the spring, that's another guy, man, to pay attention to in that safety room. But Knowles kind of being the name that was mentioned by Mike Norvell and Coach Surtain. So interesting to see what Kevin Knowles brings you, being up to 190. Interesting. I can't really gauge it. I don't know. I guess I got to see how he moves. I got to see how he plays. I want to see how he moves, see how he plays. But I think he's going to have opportunity, man. He's going to get plenty of snaps. So I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if he I just want to see how, again, hard for me to talk about at this point. I want to see how he translates to that position. I do think he's a smaller DB, but he has dog in him, and he's had dog in him since he's been in here in the freshman. So I'm not so worried about his tackling. I think he can tackle. I think he'll be physical enough, or he'll at least have the mentality to be physical enough to play the position. I'm more interested to see is he Akeem Dent? Is he in the box more like Shaheem? What are they? My assumption is he's Akeem Dent, like more of a free safety role. So I'm interested to see just how he makes that transition. Special teams was actually talked about, and some interesting names came up on special teams. Deuce Spann, Mike Norvell talked about Deuce Spann. And at this point, folks, I think Deuce Spann, if you're looking for anything from Deuce Spann, I think it's got to be on special teams. I think the receiver stuff from Spann is not going to happen. If you have any expectation on Deuce as a wide receiver, I think you might want to forget that. Not sure, but that's just my opinion. But kick return might be where, if you're a Deuce Spann fan or supporter, or you want to see this guy, you want to see that speed in action that everybody continues to talk about. That kick return might be the place Deuce Spann makes an impact. His name was mentioned. Keziah Holmes' name was also mentioned, which probably isn't surprising because we saw what Jerry Benson did. They're saying Keziah Holmes is very similar in his type of explosion and speed. So it doesn't surprise me that they get Keziah Holmes back there on kick return. You probably don't want to – you're probably under the assumption that Trey Benson carries a larger load this year. So maybe you don't want him back there. Right, and maybe it's Keziah Holmes and Deuce Spann back there returning kicks, and you can save Trey Benson. You don't need him returning kicks. Obviously, with Trayshawn Ward here last year, you could do that because Trayshawn Ward could take a bulk of the carries if need be. You probably won't see. I mean, Trey Benson might be in the mix there, but my guess is they're looking to replace Trey Benson, not because he's not good. We know he can return kickoffs, but you don't want probably your starting running back doing that. You probably want some of these other guys. Lawrence Toafili got to mention as a punt returner. Mike Norvell saying that he's like really taking that role over. And that's good to hear. Dustin Hill's name also gets mentioned there. I think Ja'Kai Douglas was another name got mentioned there. I think we'll find a valid punt returner. I'm interested to see if it's Toafili back there returning punts. Dustin Hill, again, that might be the spot where he gets first acclimated to the college game. It could be at punt return. So people ask questions about special teams and who's going to do what. So Mike Norvell addressed special teams. And I think a lot of those options are pretty good options. So I have no gripes or complaints about any of that. I just hope I hope Deuce Spann can be the answer, quite honestly. And, I hope Dustin Hill or LT or even Ja'Kai can be an answer at punt return. Because we're going to need, that's the part of the game that we're going to need to solidify. So those are the names that were specifically mentioned on special teams. Again, man, hit that like button if you in here. Let's go to the chat real quick before we move on with the rest of these notes from the interviews. Kenny, what's going on? He says, I just picked up a kid from Indiana. From Indian land, sorry. That's the high school I went. Saw the kid, good pickup. He's really good in my book. I see you just picked. Oh, okay. So I didn't talk about this. Quite honestly, I didn't care to talk about. It's not a knock. Look, it's not a knock on either player. We all know who the big announcements were this past weekend. That was Lester, and that was ITT. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the offensive lineman from the West Coast. Those are the two big players. We also got two other guys this past weekend, and a linebacker who I think this is who Kenny's talking about, the linebacker from South Carolina. As a matter of fact, what's his name? So we're kind of jumping all around here, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what we're here for. What's this linebacker's name, man? Tamir Hickman Collins. Yeah, he's from Indian Land, South Carolina, 6'1", 218. I'm not going to talk about where he's ranked because I'm not going to do it. I already know what's going to happen when we start talking about this stuff, and we're going to say numbers don't matter and watch the tape. Awesome. So y'all go watch the tape on Tamir. Tell me what you think. Another one of those players. Awesome. Glad to have him part of the tribe. And then Jaden Todd out of Georgia, 6'6", 315. He's also a guy that's low on the rankings. However, what we do know is that this is not a great offensive line class. I have zero issues with the fact that you have two blue chip prospects on your O-line, and then you have kind of two in Ty Hilton and this young man. You have two project players. That balances out way more than what I'm seeing in the linebacker room again, which I'm not going to talk negative about. But yeah, I can balance out blue chippers and projects. I can balance that. So those are the two commitments, man. We'll leave that at that. Randy loves the hyphens and last names. What's your wide receiver? We're going to talk about the depth chart here in a minute. We're going to talk about the depth chart, but we're going to continue to covering these notes before we get into the depth chart. Let's continue with the notes, man. On the O-line, Jalen Early was a name that Mike Norvell's went out of his way to mention. I think they are pleased with his work ethic. As we all know, when we went over those weights not too long ago, that Jalen Early has lost 20-plus pounds. And some people were maybe a little concerned. I was not, because that's in line with what you usually how you build the I'm no weight strength and weight conditioning expert. But normally what you do to properly build a professional body is cut and bulk. And they cut him down to 290 something. He's like, you're talking about a kid that was probably in the 320s. He's down to like 299. And they're going to use this season to bulk him up. I don't know if Jalen Early will really play other than in garbage time, but he cut some bad weight so they can put on some good weight. So shout out to Jalen Early. Mike Norvell specifically mentioned him. And I love this quote from Alex Atkins, man. They interviewed Alex Atkins, and I love this quote. I told you Alex Atkins has said this multiple times on camera, that every year he brings in somebody to replace Maurice, and every year Maurice steps to the plate. So if there's one thing you need to know that Alex Atkins said, he said, Maurice Smith will start at center. Every other position on that O-line is up for grabs except for center. So Maurice Smith, like every year, this really even shouldn't be a surprise at this point. Like every year, Maurice Smith will be your starting center. And every other position, he said, we're going to have a lot of fun at every other position on that O-line, because I legit think, and I've been saying this, I legit think that it will be a battle over pretty much every position on the offensive line. But Maurice Smith is a lock. He's going to be your center, whether you like it or not. I think right now most Florida State fans are okay with Maurice. He's put on some solid weight. He's, according to the depth chart, he's like 290 something. So that's a good weight That's better than when we were out here pushing him out here and he was at 270. Don't forget, I remember the days when Maurice was playing at 270s. So if he's legitimately in the 290s, I think we're in real good hands. And obviously Atkins likes Maurice, and we're good there, right? We're good there. I think we're good there in at the center position. So I think that's all. I mean, there was some more stuff. Heard Randy talk a little bit about backer. Blake Nicholson was a name that came up that they're excited to see. Can he get some early burn? I think Coach JP mentioned Gilbert Edmond is a name that they're expecting to help out. He also thought about Byron Turner and talked about the weight that he added and him maybe being that next guy off the bench. Coach Shannon talked specifically about Omar Graham, so you can expect a lot of expectations out of Omar Graham. So we'll see if Omar Graham lives up to them, but I think they're going to put Omar Graham in a position to be on the field this year. So I think we'll see a lot more of redshirt freshman Omar Graham, as Coach Shannon specifically was talking about him. And again, that's really all from the interviews today. Let's discuss that real quick, and then we'll move on to the depth chart, man. And by the way, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and continue to share the video. What's up, Jalen? My bad, I missed it, but what was your schedule prediction? We ain't went there yet. So once we get there, Jalen, you ain't missed it because I ain't even got there yet. Dan Squatch is in the building. FSU Tony's in the building. Yes, Maurice is a lot. Washington is at 306. So, yes, we'll see what happens with Washington, obviously. And Dan Squatch says Gilbert needed some weight to set the edge at a higher level. 240 ain't it. He's listed at 250 something. So, I think that's what he's listed as. So, Sertain said DB's creating turnovers is his goal finally. Hopefully that translates to the field, man. Hopefully that translates to the field. So let's do it. Not a lot to talk about anymore with the notes. Not a lot of people commenting on them. So we'll keep the show rolling. Depth chart, y'all. Where do we start? We want to start offense or defense? Where do we start? Where do we start on the depth chart? By the way, disclaimer, this is my depth chart. This isn't what they're going to run. This is what I think maybe they're going to run or should run or what I would maybe run, right? So, take everything. Obviously, you take everything I say with a grain of salt. I could be completely wrong. I could be right on some of these predictions, but where do we start? Y'all want to start offense or defense? I'm seeing defense. I see two defenses. If I don't see another one, we're going defense in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going defense. We're going to start with defense. And, of course, we'll start up front, man. Of course, we know who our ends are. So that goes without discussion. Pat, Jarrett. Those are your two ends. Now, the question's going to be, oh, y'all are late. Y'all missed the count. But it's defense anyway. Most of the votes are defense. The question is going to be, who are the guys off the bench at the defensive end spot? So, obviously, Pat Payton, Jarrett Verts, those are your two ends. Obviously, I think Gilbert Edmond is the first guy that they're going to put out there as a strong side end. I think the big question when it comes to your ends, and I put this here, so I'm going to do a 2-deep depth chart for the most part on most of these positions, unless I feel like they're going to rotate 3. The question is going to be who emerges, Jaden Jones, Byron Turner, or Dante Anderson. I'm leaning towards Byron Turner. That was the name that specifically Coach JP mentioned, and that I think they're putting a lot into Turner. I think y'all remember at the end of last year, a lot of us said this is going to be Turner's year. He's either going to get with it or he's going to be out of there. If Turner doesn't give you anything this year, he's hitting the portal. I'm convinced of that. So I think they're investing a lot of time and effort into him. They talked about his weight gain. They're going to give him opportunities to get out there. Jared Verse is going to need somebody to back him up, probably on that blind side. And I'm gonna go with Byron Turner only because Jaden Jones has the measurables. Jaden Jones also is a guy who hasn't played due to a knee injury. Hasn't played at the weight that he's currently at 250s. He got here who's only like in the 230s, like high 30s. Jaden might be a year away, and I think Turner is a little bit more advanced than Dante Anderson. So I'm gonna put Turner there, and so you're two deep basically goes Pat and Gilbert, Verse and Turner. And then, of course, for bigger lineups, you can see Briggs flex out. I think you could even at times see a Fisk flex out and guys like that. But for the most part, I think that's your main rotation. If one of these other guys come along, you may very well see Jaden Jones. Daniel Lyons is going to be a name to watch. If you watch his weights, his gains and his losses, he lost weight. Where I think a lot of people were expecting him to gain weight as an interior D lineman. I want to say Lyons is down in the 270s. Maybe that's a guy they put on the edge. So Lyons could be a wild card, and I will go over some wild cards. But I think Lyons could be a wild card you might want to watch on the edge. I definitely think maybe watch for Lyons. But Turner's going to be the guy I think that is going to be – there's going to be a big magnifying glass on Byron Turner. And I actually thought he performed fairly well in the spring. I thought him and Dante Anderson actually performed very well in the spring. And we'll see if that continues in the fall camp. Interior, man, that's where all the beef is. That's where all the money is. Braden Fisk, Fabian Lovett. Those are your two. Nose tackles, love it. Your D tackle is Braden Fisk. Backing up. Now, also, another disclaimer. This depth chart is based on everybody being healthy and everybody's waiver being cleared. So Darryl Jackson will be your backup nose once his waiver gets approved. If he's not, that becomes an interesting dynamic. Do they – because right now I got Farmer backing up Fisk, but I think Farmer's in an open battle there. I think your top three, again, granted that Darryl Jackson is indeed eligible, I think your top three is cemented. Fisk, Lovett, Jackson. I think Farmer's in a battle, man, whether that be with Malcolm Ray, Dennis Briggs, Lyons are still in the mix. Tafasi, maybe he comes up. They got a freshman in KJ Sampson. Who knows if he can – I don't think Farmer is solidified in there. It doesn't mean he won't rise to the occasion, but I think there's going to be some challenge, and that's a good thing, man. Iron sharpens iron, push each other, and we'll see who wins that battle. But as of right now, I will go Braden Fisk and Farmer, the D tackle spot, your nose guards, your nose tackles, Lovett and Jackson. And that's your defensive line, man. Your starters, Pat, Fisk, Lovett, Verse. Your backups, Edmond, Farmer, Jackson, and Turner, I think, though there are other options there. What are our thoughts on the D-line? And we know the line goes a little deeper than some of those names, man. Again, Dante Anderson, Daniel Lyons, Tafasi. Who am I forgetting? Dennis Briggs, Malcolm Ray. Even on the edge, I mean, you got a guy like Aaron Hester who's up to 240 something now. Now, Aaron Hester isn't a tall or long body. I think he's at like 6'1" or 6'2". So it's an interesting dynamic there with Aaron Hester. But there's some bodies along that D line that we're not mentioning that could very well work. They're going to have an opportunity to work their way into this rotation. So, what are y'all thoughts on the D line? I see Jerg's in the building. Jerg, you got to change that. You got to change that picture, bro. You don't have hair no more. You got to take that picture down. You bald, man. You bald as a cue ball. You got to take that down. You don't have hair no more. But Jerg says, don't get kicked out the group chat. Yeah. Hey, so Jerg kicked me out the group chat, y'all, because of that that recent O lineman that Miami just got committed, the guy they flipped from Harvard. And all I said, I didn't even make fun of him. I actually gave him credit. So Miami flipped the recent offensive lineman from Harvard. And the only thing I put in I said Miami was cooking and put a couple fire emojis. The man kicked me out the group chat. That tells you what he think of that commit. I ain't say nothing bad about the young man. That tell you what Jerg think about. That tell you what Jerg think about him. Man, kicked me out the group chat. All I said was Miami was cooking. That man kicked me out. So you see how they do me. Turner, our Davey says Turner, Briggs, Edmond, Anderson, a committee for backups, no set rotation behind those guys. What was Turner's weight change? He needed a strong offseason. Turner got up to in the 240s. Turner's closer to 250, I believe, than he's like 246 or something like that. So I think that's a solid weight for him. Dan Swash says Farmer gonna flash. Hope Ayo gets some burn. Brandon loves the D-line. And I agree with that. I think we have pretty good depth without Jackson. I think Jackson does make a difference, though, because he is, I mean, look, 6'6", 330 or whatever he is. That's right. You don't coach speed. You don't coach size. He's got size. So I do think that's a guy that they definitely want to be eligible. But I agree. We have solid depth even without Jackson. Tell him again, Jared. 77 listeners, 48 likes. What is going on? Y'all hit the like button for me, please. That is the best way to support the channel, is hitting the like button. I actually have 83 listeners. I should have at least 73 likes. Come on, guys. Hit the like button. Hester got a little Brian Burns in him. You think so? I don't see that, bro. Yeah, we're gonna have to explain that one to me. What's Brian Burns? All the 6'5", 6'6", and long and twitchy. I gotta see that from Hester. Jordan says it's the way I did it. Man, I was just saying y'all was cooking, man. If that guy picks Miami over go to Harvard anyway. Am I back? Am I back? Like my internet legit just went out on me. I think I'm back. Okay, I'm back. All right. Yeah, man, internet just like died on me. I don't know what happened on that one. No idea what happened. Now I gotta make sure. I gotta make sure everything's right. So give me a second, guys. I don't know what's going on with the Texas internet. My bad. Just cut me off in the middle of the time. I don't even remember what I was talking about, y'all. No, we were going over the depth chart. Okay. All right. Should be good. Y'all should be able to hear me. Okay, loud and clear. We're good to go. All right. Let's see. I was talking about Jerg. And he was asking some questions. And we were talking about D lineman, man. Before I just completely, my internet crashed on me, but we're looking good now. Yeah, Dante's in the 240s, I believe. Dante Anderson bulk up. Yeah, he did bulk up. Yeah, he was small coming out of high school, but apparently he's bulked up. Born Legacy says he's checking in. What's going on? Ocala Noel. Appreciate you tuning in. Okay, everybody telling me I froze. I'm back. Okay, cool. So that was the DNs, man. Let's move on from the DNs. Technical difficulties aside, thanks everybody for sticking with me through the technical difficulties. I don't know where that came from. Linebackers, man. Y'all already know. We only run 2 backers out there at a time. Your Mike and your Will. We already know, man. It's a 3-man rotation in that linebacker room. It's Tatum Bethune, it's Caden DeLoach, and it's DJ Lundy. The question's going to be, who's the 4th option? Will there be a 4th option? From all accounts, sounds like Omar Graham. From what we saw in the spring, it looks like Omar Graham. I think you'll definitely have, at a minimum, a 4-man rotation at backer. Very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see, can Blake find his way into the rotation? And where does Brian Courtney fit into all of this? I don't feel like anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that was a name that was mentioned in any of the interviews today. So I don't know what's going on with Courtney. It might be nothing, but is he going to work his way into that mix? I definitely think Courtney will play a bunch of special teams, but can he see the field at actual linebacker is going to be interesting. And of course, Blake Nicholson, who everybody's kind of raving about as being just a natural athlete, which is surprising to no one. But we don't need to spend a lot of time on backers, man. That position's, for one, the top guys are all solidified, and it's Omar Graham, maybe Brian Courtney, and then it's a bunch of freshmen, and then it's a bunch of freshmen. So there's really not a lot to spend on backers. So let's keep it moving on the linebacker tip. And let's go DB. Now DB is where the rotation, DB is where it's at. Because we already know our safeties. And I think the safeties might be, so you know how Alex Atkins said Maurice has a job and no one else does? By default, our safeties have a job. Akeem Dent and Shaheem Brown are going to start. Then you have Kevin Knowles backing up Dent. I think it's going to be Knowles backing up Dent. I legit think it's going to be Kirkland or Hussey backing up Shaheem Brown. Now, Baker's in the mix there, that the young man from the JUCO ranks. But I don't know. I got a feeling that it's going to be one of the 2 true freshmen. Baker is a wild card in that whole mix. I'm leaning towards Kirkland or Hussey. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Kirkland just from the fact that he was on campus. He participated in the spring. He got those off-season workouts with the team, and he's a head up on the playbook more so than Hussey. Hussey might have a higher ceiling, might be a better talent. As a matter of fact, Coach Surtain emphasized Hussey's athleticism being, very impressive, but I think Kirkland might have the initial I think Kirkland might have the initial edge between those two. Then of course you got Ashton Baker or whatever as another option in the safety room. He was a JUCO guy, but he's a freshman JUCO. Didn't play redshirted, I think, because of injury. So he's just as experienced as far as I'm concerned as any of these freshmen. So, but he's got some interesting physical traits himself. So maybe he can get in the mix there. Maybe he can get in the mix. Ronaldo Green, I'm convinced, is cornerback one. The question is, who's everybody else? A lot of people were saying Fentrell was struggling, and that number 7, was gonna start up. Look, listen, y'all know my stance on Jarian, and my stance on Jarian ain't changed. I'm gonna need more than a couple games at the end of the season for my stance on Jarian to change. Everybody's using those last couple games to say that Jarian Jones is X, Y, and Z. Nah. Go watch his tape in totality. He's still the same guy as far as I'm concerned. Prove me wrong, Jarian. Continue to prove me wrong. I'll be the guy that holds your feet to the fire because I don't believe the hype. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've watched enough of number 7 to know. I ain't trusting that. I'm sorry. I'll be that guy. If I got if I'm gonna respect him by the end of the year, touche. I will get on here and bend the knee. I promise you I will. The same way I bent the knee, off topic. But holy cow, if you watch that fight Saturday, you're talking to an Errol Spence fan here. I did not think Bud Crawford was going to beat that boy's ass like that. I bend the knee to Bud. Terrence Crawford, I will never say another negative thing about Terrence Bud Crawford. He is the pound for pound best fighter in the world, bar none. And I will have those same respectful words for Jarian Jones if by the end of the season he's showing me that he's that guy. Fentrell Cypress will start opposite of Ronaldo Green. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I don't believe in Jarian, though Jarian will back up Fentrell Cypress. Jarian will get plenty of burn. He will get plenty of opportunities. And the good thing for Jarian is that I think he'll be asked to play to his strengths. But as a starter, I don't want to hear it. I'm telling you right now. I know I have a lot of people disagreeing, but I'm not trying to hear that for number 7. I think AZ will back up corner number 1. I think AZ will be the backup to Ronaldo. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if AZ could find his way into a starter somewhere down the stretch here. Who knows? And maybe you can move Fentrell inside. And then you got nickel. I think we're going to start off with Greedy Vance at that nickel spot. They have also said Kevin Knowles also will rotate at nickel. So I do expect Kevin Knowles to be in that mix. It'd be very interesting to see, does Kevin Knowles start at nickel and then rotate the safety during the games when they need him to? Or maybe vice versa? Maybe, well, obviously I don't think he's going to start at safety, but is he the first guy off the bench when it comes to nickel and Greedy starts? Because I do think a guy like Edwin Joseph may very well have that chance to sneak in that rotation. I think the nickel is way more up for grabs than the other 2 corner spots. I would be interested to see if Jarian could play inside. Again, show me. I'm about showing me the truth when it comes to Jarian. And again, I ain't seen the truth. I just seen a bunch of fluff at this point. So Jarian's going to have all the opportunities in the world to shut me up. And anybody that believes in him, I tip the hat to you. But I do not subscribe to that assessment on number 7. That's just me. Maybe I'm traumatized from watching 7 the last few years, but it just is what it is. I'm sorry. Y'all know me. It's nothing personal, Jarian. Sure, you're a dope dude. But on the field, whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. And that's the defense, y'all. So before we move on to the offense, let's see what y'all talk about. I know my Jarian comments probably sparked some controversy. What's up, Kane Zay? Joseph at nickel sound about right to me. KJ Bolden. Kevin Knowles will play at safety. Number 7 going to get run. I'm sure he is. Definitely going to get run. No matter what he's done on the field, they've always continued to give him burn. So, yeah, he'll be on the field. AZ will back up Ronaldo. I agree. That's just me. Again, these are my projections on the depth chart, guys. This is not based on anything. This they can do completely opposite of what I'm projecting. These are just what I think is going to happen. Kane Zay is yawning about something. Not sure what that is. But they said Cypress is learning the defense and he's smart in the film room. He should be. He's a veteran player. So I would hope so. I would hope so. Dan Squat says, you won't hear me say another bad word about 7. Having been the last 2-3 years to hear that, coaches talking about leadership. Cool. I'm glad he's being a great leader. That's what we need, great leaders. FSU's Bud, Miami Spence, facts. Bud is pound for pound, absolutely. He murdered Spence. I took some people's money off that fight. Congratulations to you, man, because I didn't see that coming. If you would have told – first of all, I thought that was a 50-50 fight. But if you would have told me that Terrence Crawford was going to wash Errol Spence, like Earl didn't even look like he belonged in the same stratosphere. That looked like I should have been in there boxing Bud Crawford. Like, that's what it looked like. I should have been in there boxing Terrence Crawford. Because that's what it looked like to me. Again, you come from a guy who was rooting for Errol Spence. So I was in shock Saturday night. Timmy not going to like that Jarian slander. I'm sure Timmy's not, but he'll be fine. Shout out to Tim. He's stuck with Jarian from the beginning. Edwin's coming off the nickel spot. He has perfect body type for it. Nickel is a matchup-dependent position. Edwin is a sneaky good corner. Number 7's on a warpath. Joseph long-term nickel for sure. I think you see 7 play that Gant role a bit. Coverage box player. He's what, a 6-year? Is he a 6-year guy? I think he's a 6-year guy. I think you're right about that, Dan Squatch. Jerry's been here for a while. And I know he transferred from Mississippi State, so he might be. He's at least a 5th-year guy. Brandon says, I think that secondary going to be nasty, especially with Pat Surtain coaching it. The best QB is TV. What are we talking about? What are we talking about here? We're talking about Miami. So that's defense, guys. Let's move on to offense. Man, I still got to predict the scores. But let's move on to offense, y'all. Of course, it's Jordan Travis at quarterback. No ifs, ands, or buts. Let's knock on wood. No injuries. It's Jordan Travis. The question is, who's the backup? I think they're going to play it safe. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy and throw Brock Glenn as number QB2. I think it's Jordan Travis. I think it's Tate Rodemaker. And everything else will continue to be a development situation for next year when the actual quarterback competition begins. And that next year, we're going to be thoroughly entertained by who the next quarterback will be, because that will be a competition next year. But for right now, it's Jordan Travis. It's Tate Rodemaker. We'll move on. No, won't waste any more time on that one. Running back, it's Trey Benson, man. It's Lawrence Toafili. The major question for back is who's the third guy? Or should I say, who's the second guy? Who's taking Trayshawn Ward's spot? Because as we know, Toafili is he's a jack of all trades, right? He's the Swiss Army knife. He's the guy that's going to be asked to do a lot of different things. We already talked about returning punts. We know they like to line him up at receiver. They like to wheel him out of the backfield to catch passes. And he can also run through the tackles, because we know Lawrence Toafili is that Swiss Army knife who's maybe not the third back, but who's the legit second back to Trey Benson. And it's got to be between Keziah Holmes and it's got to be between Rodney Hill. Whoever you pick, I respect it because I respect both players. I tend to think Holmes might have a gear that Hill doesn't. I got to wait and see, but I tend to believe Keziah Holmes might have a gear that Rodney doesn't. If you're making me pick right now, I think Rodney is going to be the odd man out. It doesn't mean he won't get burned in some blowout situations, but I'm leaning Keziah Holmes. He's a guy that we didn't get to see in the spring, unfortunately. But now that they've picked back up in the fall or summer, but going into the fall, you're starting to hear Keziah's whole name get talked about a lot more. I'm going Trey Benson, LT, and Keziah Holmes as my running back room. And of course, man, we rotate a lot of guys. Those running backs, guys will get banged up, right? It's bound to happen, unfortunately, but that's the nature of the beast. So Rodney, I believe, will have plenty of opportunities this year. But as of right now, I'm going Keziah Holmes, Lawrence Toafili, and Trey Benson. Not in that order, but those three will share the bulk of the running back / tailback carries in the backfield. Tight end. Obviously, Jaheim Bell didn't come here to be second fiddle to anybody. Jaheim Bell. The question is it Douglas? Is it Morlock as 2? I am going, this might surprise some people, I'm going Biscuit at 2, even though he's back up to like 290 pounds, which still baffles me, but whatever, we'll see. Biscuit had a couple Popeyes biscuits on the way to the camp this year. So we'll see if he works that weight back off or what we're doing here. But I'm going Biscuit as tight end number 2 to begin the season. I think Morlock might need a little time of seasoning and some development there. What Biscuit gives you, and Morlock being a 6'7" tight end will be utilized, even if it's a decoy. I think he will be utilized because, again, like I always say, you got to account for that size. But Biscuit gives you a nice combination of blocking and sneaky good hands. And he's a guy, they did it a lot last year with Biscuit because of his size, people expect him to just be a primary blocker, but he can sneak out and catch passes as an eligible receiver where he, what do they call it? Somebody give me the exact terminology because I don't know it off the top of my head. You sell the block for a little bit, then you sneak off and get, and Biscuit excels at that, can be utilized as that. I think he's a nice compliment to Jaheim Bell. I got Jaheim Bell. I got Marcus and Douglas. And I think Connor Morlock, though, will be in the mix as the third tight end in the rotation, which means you probably see a little bit of cut and snaps for guys like Preston Daniel. But Morlock, I do think you got to use his size. You got to at least get him out there, let the defense account for him. I think your primary 2 tight ends is going to be Jaheim Bell and Marcus and Douglas. Yeah, the chip blocks and stuff like that, like Bradley's saying. They did that a lot with him. So 285, not 290. I'm sorry. That's 5 pounds. I exaggerated with the 290. Anyway, y'all get the point. He's 6'3", 290, 280, 285. Where last year he played in the 270s. So, I'm not a fan of that, but we'll see. If you're telling me that he's going to lose 10 pounds in the camp, maybe he does. Maybe he does. Wide receivers, guys. So we know who wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 is. Well, we know who the 2 names are. The question is, does it matter who's wide receiver 1 and who's wide receiver 2? Does it really matter? Bro, they can be whoever you want. Both guys will be on the field at the same time. I got the wide receiver 1 as Keon. I've stuck by that. It's not necessarily a knock on Johnny. I just think Keon has a different gear than Johnny does. He can do a lot of the same things that Johnny can do, except he's more explosive of an athlete, way more twitchier. But Johnny Wilson is a great compliment and vice versa. Keon's a great compliment to Johnny, and Johnny's a great compliment to Keon. Again, it doesn't really matter who 1 and 2 is. Those are the top 2 guys. I got Keon 1. I got Johnny 2. The question is who's in the slot? Who's the Z? Is it Ja'Kai? Is it Winston? I'm curious if they ease Winston into it and how that goes. As of right now, I'm going to go Winston Wright, though it would not shock me if it was Ja'Kai Douglas. It wouldn't shock me at all if it was Ja'Kai. A part of me wants to lean towards Ja'Kai. I think Ja'Kai's in for a year And I've been calling for Ja'Kai for a couple years now. If he's healthy, I think he could be in for an explosive year. But I think they're gonna ease. They may ease Winston in there, but I think they're gonna give Winston Wright some opportunities, man, to have that slot. So right now, my top three: Coleman, Johnny, and Winston. Where I got Douglas backing up Winston, I got Tron backing up Johnny. I struggled with who's gonna back up Keon. That's actually where I struggled. If Darian Williamson is healthy, the way they talk about him, I think he might actually back up Keon Coleman. If he's not healthy, then now you can slide Tron over there. But then now, is there another receiver off the bench? And who is that guy? It was going to have to be one of the young guys. I don't think it's Deuce Spann. But he's the only other really receiver with any experience, unless you want to count in Joshua Burrell. But that's another guy. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to believe in Joshua Burrell until he stays healthy and actually gets on the football field. So we have a ton of receivers. I just don't know who emerges from that second and third group. The freshmen are probably coming in hungry, ready to take a job. If guys like Deuce Spann and Joshua Burrell and Kentron Portier and Darian Williamson aren't ready, Dustin Hill didn't sit around 2 years for no reason. He's coming to take a job. Hakeem's coming to take a job. Vendravius Jacobs is coming to take a job. Y'all sleeping on Goldie Lawrence. Don't sleep on Goldie. He's coming to take a job. Ton of wide receivers. But for now, those are kind of my top 6 receivers in the rotation. Coleman, Johnny, Winston, Ja'Kai, Tron. And if Darian's healthy, I think they'll put Darian in the mix until further notice, until someone takes that spot. What do y'all think about the receiver room? I think the slot will be will be the better blocker. I don't think blocking is neither one of their strong suits, if I'm being honest. I don't think blocking is Winston or Ja'Kai's strong suit, so I don't know. But I understand why you would say that, because Michael Pittman was asked to do a lot of that, so I understand why you would say that. Portier will be the week 1 slot. You think so? You think they're going to put – I mean, I get it. I mean, you're talking about lining 3 receivers on the field at 6'3" and above. I mean, I can understand why they would potentially like that matchup with Tron. But I can also understand how you got 2 bigger body guys on the outside. You want the defense to account for maybe some more shifty, quick, explosive, speedy guys in the middle. So I can also see you putting Winston Wright and Ja'Kai Douglas at 3. Which, me personally, I think that completely that balances your receiver room. Whereas Tron, yeah, you got a lot of big bodies, but I think it's easier for a defense to keep those 3 in front of them. Where, I mean, there's a legit threat that Winston Wright or Ja'Kai Douglas completely can take a top off the defense, where I don't think Tron brings that. So I understand. I hear you, and it's possible for sure. I would lean towards the other 2. Sam thinks it's Douglas for now. Yeah, Winston might definitely shock everybody. Don't sleep on any of those freshmen, man. Yeah, Burrell's actually. I've been saying, man, can they put Burrell at linebacker? Dustin Hill's gonna take somebody's job. Yeah, we definitely loaded that receiver, man. Spann or Williamson may transfer after this year. Spann's already transferred, so I don't know if he would risk having to get a waiver to transfer again. Williamson is definitely a possibility. They've talked about Hill at punt return. Let's move on to the O-line, man. The O-line is what everybody wants to know. By the way, hit that like button, y'all. But the O-line is the toughest position to figure out. Even Alex Atkins said it himself. The only person that's got a job on the O-line is Maurice Smith. So let's get Maurice out the way. Alex Atkins says Maurice Smith is the only person with a secure job on the O-line, meaning no one's taking that spot. It's been decided. Everything else is up for grabs, and it's hard. It is hard because, and again, this is if everybody's healthy. I'm I'm sorry, y'all. If Roberts got healthy, and I've seen a lot of people talk about him maybe not being a starter this year, and it's possible because they did mention somebody. There might be a couple guys who are used to getting starting time, not just specifically on the O line, but just on the team in general. There's going to be guys who are used to starting, not starting this year. But I have a hard time seeing Robert Scott not being a starter on the offensive line, which then means, by my logic, if you go by what I say, I have a hard time seeing Robert Scott not being a starter. So now you're telling me if Robert Scott has a job locked up and Maurice has a job locked up, then either Meach or Byers is not starting. And you can't count out Keandre Jones. You can't count out Keandre Jones, who still might be the most physically gifted offensive line. I keep telling y'all this. I keep saying that. Keandre Jones might be the most physically gifted guy on the O-line. And they even echo my sentiments on the interviews, basically saying, I mean, you're talking about a guy who might be the strongest player on the O-line in Keandre Jones. Maybe he has some weight issues. Maybe he has to get some things in check. But it's hard for me to really pick a starting five, man. Because it's hard for me to keep Byers off the O-line. But again, either Byers or Meach ain't starting. Don't sleep on Darius. Darius has always been a fixture. We know we got Casey Roddick. Bless Harris. So I gave it my best shot. So this is what I went with, y'all. So I said all of that to say this. Left tackle, I got Bless Harris. Left guard, I got Casey. Obviously, Maurice. I got Byers. If it was me, Byers would be my guard. And again, this is if Robert Scott is healthy. Byers would be my right guard. Or you could put him at left guard, actually. And you could put Byers and Bless side by side on the left. Throw Casey at right. But Byers would be an interior O lineman for me. And I'm putting Robert Scott at right tackle. With Meach backing up Byers. Jones backing up Roddick. Darius, probably the first tackle off the bench. As well as Darius probably would actually be the first guy to back up Maurice Smith if the center went down as well. We know Darius is our swing O-lineman that can play literally all five positions. And then a little wild card in there, I think, has to be Julian Armella. And then Bryson Estes is still around. And it'd be very interesting to see where if he can get a mix and maybe a second unit on the offensive line. So again, man, look, guys, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I don't really want to go back and forth with people telling y'all who's going to start, who's not going to start. We all have opinions on that. Like I'm saying, Davis saying Roddick starting. He's, from all intents and purposes, Roddick has been on every starting lineup from the spring up until now. So I don't know why you would think Roddick wouldn't start. And then if Roddick's not starting, then who's starting there? So, again, there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of people saying, well, this guy should start, and this guy better start. I don't think there's an answer. I trust Alex Atkins to figure it out. And I know he's going to put those guys through the ringer. But it's a tough decision to make, I think, for sure. I mean, who's to say Robert Scott doesn't move inside maybe? And Byers is a tackle. Though I don't know if Byers is a legit tackle, and I'll stand by that just from what I've seen. I don't think Byers is a legit offensive tackle, but I could be wrong. We'll see. When I saw Byron Turner giving Byers that work in the spring, I was like, okay, yeah, let's move him inside. Yeah, but that's just me. But again, man, that offensive line, man, it's up for grabs. Let's see what y'all think. Let me get to the comments, see what y'all think. Because I struggled with it, not going to lie. I struggled with the offensive line. Chance thinks Scott will start is healthy. I think so too. I think if he's healthy, I don't see how Robert Scott isn't on the starting O line. But that again, that's just me. I hear you. Which is essentially Dan Scotch which is why I went with Byers starting over Meach. But a lot of people want Byers to be a tackle. And maybe he is. You can't tell me Robert Scott wouldn't be a better guard than one of those starting guards. It's probably so. Like even so if Byers is a legit tackle, I mean, I think Robert Scott would probably, I agree, like he probably still has a job on the interior. So we'll see. Briley's arguing with a Miami fan. Keandre, when he's consistent and focused, he's an elite people mover, but those weren't strengths at Auburn. Right. Yes, they did mention a heavy rotation. But I want to say this, and Mike Norvell and Atkins would know better than me. Offensive line is very pivotal, in my opinion. Cohesion, being able to communicate along the offensive line without even having to communicate, if what I'm saying makes sense. I understand the whole we can rotate a lot of bodies, but you also have to understand guys knowing and comfortable with who they playing next to. I know where you're gonna move without you telling me where you're gonna move. I know if this guy goes this way, or if they swing a guy around this way, like if they stunt this. I know based on what the defense does, what my partner is gonna do without me having to verbally tell him. I think that is pivotal to a great offensive line unit. So I understand the rotating, but you got to get that top 5 cemented. You can rotate all you want. You got to get your top 5 cemented, and you really probably got to get your first 8. It's probably important that your first 8 be in sync. Your first 8 offensive linemen be in sync. Anton says Byers is the most physically gifted. Maybe. Byers is definitely very long. That's very long wingspan. Yes. I agree, Champ 99. I agree. But everybody keeps telling me that this guy is going to start. But I agree. He did not look good enough in the spring to me either. Dan Squatch thinks Roddick might be the first man up. Darius has always been one of the most important O-linemen on this team. He always has been. We have no idea what the O-line will look like. Hell, they're legit talking about rotations. It's awesome. Again, awesome problem to have. This is not what we've had in previous years where the reason we didn't know what the O-line was going to look like because it was either injury plagued or we just didn't have any credible bodies. We're not throwing Donta Lucas and the boys out there this time. The reason we don't know what the O-line is going to look like is because the competition is there. And we ain't even talked about guys like Dontre Richardson and Jalen Early. I mentioned Armella a little bit. Schrader's still at this school. And Atkins specifically mentioned Schrader as a guy that they might be looking forward to seeing. Bryson Estes, Kanaya Charlton, Quayshawn Sapp. There's a bunch of guys, a bunch of redshirt freshmen that should be chomping at the bit to get in this room and show that they belong amongst these other more veteran players. I think it's going to be a war this offseason in that O-line room. They will walk through the fire and come out steel on the other end. I believe that. I actually believe that. I agree with Tyler. I remember us having that conversation, Dan Squatch. I'm not sure why they're against Scott. It's not a bad thing for him to do. I much rather them move Scott to guard than just say he's coming off the bench, which is I just don't see it. I don't see Robert Scott not starting somewhere on the O line. But what's more of a demotion, moving positions or moving to the bench, which is what some people have also talked about. A lot of people don't think Robert Scott is going to play. Everybody's penciling Byers in as that other tackle because Bless has been that impressive at the left tackle spot. We are all assuming Bless takes the left tackle job from Scott. If people are saying Byers is already the right tackle and that Scott's going to go straight to – I have a hard time seeing that, but that's what people are saying, man. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Dan Squatch. Best case scenario is Keandre gets it together and that combination right there, and Roddick can be one of the first guys off the bench. That's the O-line we should hope to see. And I don't think Casey Roddick's a bad player, but he is coming from a 2 or 1 win Colorado team, whatever. But those, you can talk about offensive line and the athletes, Keandre and Byers alone, 2 of the better athletes we've had at O-line in a long time. Bless Harris is right up there. Bless Harris, man, this guy might get his way talked into the NFL draft with the season I think he might have. I like that. Dan Squatch. I like that a lot. If Armella takes that right tackle spot and can't, you can move Scott to guard. Then you have Bless at left, Byers at guard. Roddick learns to snap, takes center. And that's your best O-line. Y'all got to stop trying to bench Maurice Smith. Atkins already done told y'all Maurice ain't going nowhere. If Atkins say it, I'm going to echo the sentiment. Maurice ain't going nowhere. Armella been relentlessly reeling in that right tackle job. May not be his time. Next year will be his time. I believe next year will be his time. I think Armella next year is Armella's time. There's no reason to rush him. And I think it's next year for Armella. There's your depth chart, y'all. So hit the like button. We're going to finish this stream out because I'm about to give you this 12-game predictions, y'all. Do we have a backup center? I think Darius probably, again, that's the guy. I think it's probably going to be the guy, first guy off the bench. They've tried to use Roddick, but I guess Roddick still doesn't snap the ball quite the way they want him to. I think Darius is going to be the first guy off the bench, but I know they're also working Quayshawn Sapp at center. I just don't think he's ready either. So Biscuit for center. Maybe Biscuit can play backup center. It's completely possible. Grill Master says, just signed on to say hi. Did you cover I covered it earlier. I know that's a hot topic for all Florida State fans. So go rewind the video to the beginning. I covered the realignment a little bit. Not too in-depth, but I gave my thoughts on it. Roy Munson says, it sucks we're going to be in the Big Ten. We'll be bottom feeders. Somebody slap Roy. You know what, Roy? I had to say this in a lot. This goes directly to Roy. Shut that up. I want to hear that shit. That's what I say to you, Roy. Let's continue. Prediction time, y'all. So hold on. As y'all see, I'm going to take myself off the screen for a second. There you go. That's your schedule. LSU, Southern Miss, Boston College, Clemson, Va Tech, Cuse, Duke, Wake, Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, Florida. We start the season off with a bang. With a legit 50-50 matchup. LSU in Orlando. 38-24, Florida State. I think I think that's going to be a good game. I can't get last year's games out of my head. And I struggle to see how this game differs much. Jaden, what's his name? Jaden Daniels or whatever. I believe he'll make plays to keep LSU in the game, and he'll put up some points. One thing he can do is he can scramble. But I just don't know if they can outscore us. I know they're not confident in their secondary because they went and got all those transfers for their secondary. So that secondary hasn't even played a lot of ball together. I think that works to our advantage. I know they think their O-line is whatever they think it is, but guess what? Our defensive line is going to be – they handled them last year, and they got better. So for me, I struggle to see where we lose to LSU. I got it 38-24. I think we finished that game how we should have finished it last year, but I do think Daniels will keep him in the game and score some points. But 38-24 LSU. What's your guys' thoughts on LSU? Bradley said 38-28, so me and Bradley almost in the same ballpark there with that one. Y'all still letting Roy talk reckless? What the hell is Roy talking about? He just came in here to troll Roy. I ain't never seen you around here, Roy. You better be subscribed. Matter of fact, I'm putting Roy in timeout. Roy, you're in timeout till you subscribe. Don't just come over here trolling. Who you think you're talking to? Come in my house being disrespectful. Southern Miss. Look, I ain't going to predict no score for Southern Miss. 50 burger. That's what we're putting on Southern Miss. 50 burger. I'll let y'all predict those scores. 50 to whatever. 50 burger for Southern Miss. Yeah, I said it here first. We're throwing 50 on Southern Miss. Not even a competition. Oh, these are interesting scores for this LSU game. Jeff's got 42-30, 35-24. I like that score, Antoine. 41-28, 43-28 for this LSU game. You guys are really confident, man. 63-0 for, I'm guessing that's Southern Miss, which I can see that. But like I said, 50 burger on Southern Miss. Easy dub. I think some of y'all are really disrespecting LSU, but touche to y'all. Boston College, man. 1 point shy of a 50 burger. I got 49-13 Boston College. 49-13 Boston College. We call off the dogs at the end. We don't quite go for 50 against Boston College. 49-13 Boston College. 35-31. Florida State drops a game to Clemson in Death Valley. That might not be a positive prediction for a lot of you. A lot of you guys might disagree with this one. It's hard to go undefeated, y'all. I don't know if we are the caliber of team that goes undefeated. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very likely that we drop a game throughout the season. And if I had to pick one, it's going to be away at Clemson early in the season. I do not think Clemson's losing to Duke. I know that is like a trendy pick. I think y'all are going to be in a rude awakening week one when Clemson rolls Duke. They're going to roll Duke by like 40 to something. I believe that. Duke ain't got nobody. Duke ain't got nothing for a guy like Will Shipley. So I'm not on that train. But I do think that's a tough game, tough environment. This isn't 2013, so I don't want to hear, well, this happened in 2013. Not saying we can't win that game. Y'all already know I've been a Clemson a bus. I think we get our get back in the conference championship game. But I think we start the season 3-1, which is fine because that win against LSU is going to hold a lot of weight, especially if LSU goes on to do what a lot of us think they are going to do. So the loss in Clemson doesn't kill us. That win against LSU is going to hold a lot of weight. But I do think we will drop one game on the road, 35-31. I struggled with picking LSU and Clemson. I decided to go with Clemson on this one. I could have picked 12-0, but I said, you know what? If I'm looking at those games and I'm saying, who do I think we could take a L to? We still got that mountain to climb that continues to be Clemson. And, that's just how I feel about that. Now, come game day, I'll probably have a whole different sentiment and say we're going to beat them. But as of right now, August 2nd, August 3rd, August 2nd, I'm going to say we lose to Clemson. I feel better about Clemson than I do LSU. That's fair. I don't. I've said it before. I think we are overrating LSU and underrating Clemson. I think we're so desperate for Clemson to be bad again or to at least fall back to the pack because we've lost so much to them. So I understand that mentality. We want to beat Clemson, so we're trying to discredit everything about them. And we are just overrating LSU when LSU's the team that went to the portal to patch up all the holes in that defense, in that secondary. On that D-line as well, they got a lot of defensive linemen out of the portal. They got linebackers out of the portal, I believe. LSU did a lot of things in the portal. Everybody talks about us in the portal. LSU patched up an entire defense in the portal. It tells me that they're not quite comfortable defensively. They even tried – remember, Gilbert Edmond was LSU lean before he surprised everybody and picked Florida State. He had visited LSU just before he picked Florida State. So LSU was going the rounds of shoring up that defense. They're a little bit overrated to me, but we'll see. And I think we're underrating Clemson just because we're tired of losing to them. Clemson secondary is suspect. Sure. Uh-oh, guys. Says I'm having connection issues again. Am I frozen again, y'all? Can y'all hear me? Still good on your end? Okay. I had froze for a second there, but you said I'm still good. All right. So that's just my take on Clemson. Let's move along, man. Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is that homecoming or is that an away game? Give me a second. Family weekend. Virginia Tech is family weekend. Either way, I got 42. And I might be being a little generous here with the score for Virginia Tech, but I got 42-21. But I could see a 42-14 game or something. I don't quite know what I'm going to make of Virginia Tech so far this year. Obviously, by the time we get to the fifth game, we'll have a better idea of what Virginia Tech is. But I'm going 42-21 just to start off the season. That offense might not be 21. My offense might not be able to muster 21 points. But for now, I'll do 42-21. Cuse is an interesting game. I watched I wanted to base this a little bit off of last year's game. And we only put up 30-some odd points. I think it's going to be a little bit something similar this year. I'm going 38-10. I'm going 38-10 for Syracuse. 38-10. I think we jump out early, call the dogs off, and just maybe because homecoming's the next week at Duke. Duke is a better coach football team. I'll go 38-10. Syracuse. Florida State over Syracuse, 38-10. Now the Duke is one of those games where some people think, look, I like Mike Elko. I think Mike Elko is a damn good coach. I ain't worried about Duke, but I'll show Duke a little respect because I do think that is a good coach. He'll have a solid defense coached up. Ultimately, Duke falls to Florida State 31-17. 31-17. I'm giving Mike Elko's defense a little bit of credit here. I see the guys in the 40s. I don't blame you, but I'm going 31-17. Florida State wins handily, but I think Mike Elko would dial up some stuff. Maybe have Florida State a little off balance at homecoming. They're going to come in, man. They're going to play hard, but ultimately we get dubbed there. Wake Forest, in my opinion, is going to be the first game that, other than Clemson, obviously, that Florida State is going to feel a little bit of heat. Now, Wake Forest loses a lot. They do lose a lot. Those receivers, I think they lost a couple guys to I think Wake Forest loses a couple guys. I think they lost a guy to the draft, and they also lost another guy to the transfer portal on that defense. So they lost some stuff. But their offense is so unique. I think they're going to be able to score. I think that game starts off a little suspect, the Wake Forest game. I think we kind of go toe-to-toe in the first half. I think we pull away from the Wake Forest in the second half. I got FSU beating Wake Forest 49-27. I do think Wake scores more than just about any other team on the schedule, not named Clemson or LSU. I think Wake can get up close to 30 points. I think they've shown that they have that type of offensive proficiency. 49-27, man. I got Wake Forest. I don't think they'll be able to stop. Ultimately, I don't think Wake is going to be able to stop our offense. Ultimately, that's where I see that game going. I do think they may score with us early, and then our numbers will win out in the end. We're deeper and stronger, and in the end, we'll wear Wake down. 49-27. Pitt, I put a star next to Pitt because that is the game that is before the game. And I think it is a trap game. I also think by this time, we're going to know exactly what type. By the time we are playing Pitt, we know what kind of team we have. When it comes to Pitt, though I think it's a potential trap game, I think this game may go. I got 42-20. I got 42-20, and I think maybe 10 of that 20 comes late in garbage time. I think Florida State actually goes in and handles Pitt. Now, I do think it's a trap game, meaning if they don't come out, Pitt is a tough coach. Pitt's always a tough team. They're a well-coached team. They continue to produce defensive linemen year in and year out to the NFL. Pitt is a tough game. I wholeheartedly think Pitt is a tough game. Something about this game tells me Florida State handles. I think Florida State makes a statement before going into Miami. I think it's like 42-10 late, and Pitt just gets some garbage stuff against like the third stringers and finishes at 42-20. But I got 42-20 Florida State over Pitt. Now we got Miami. Before I talk about Miami, what do y'all think? What are y'all predictions on Miami? What are y'all predictions? As I'm looking at some of these Pitt, 35-24 against Pitt, that means they're in a ball. They're in a tough game right there. 45-28. Pitt in November, cold wind blowing at Heinz Field. 45-17 FSU big. 38-21 against Pitt. Oddly enough, everybody saying Pitt is a trap game makes me think it's not a trap game. I hear that. Pitt will be the closest game other than Clemson and LSU. Wake will be like Syracuse last year. Dan Squatch is getting married on the weekend of Pitt. Congratulations to Dan Squatch. 63-3 FSU, 50-10, 35-24 Miami, 52-10 over Miami, 45-0 over Miami. Boys flat out disrespecting Miami in the chat. 52-13. I'm hoping Loden meant 63-3 FSU over Miami, or he's going in timeout. You cannot claim yourself to be a Florida State fan, and that's your score prediction. Loden, you better tell me you're joking. I'm putting you in timeout. 42-31, 48-21. I got it. Believe it or not. And this isn't. Ultimately, I don't think it's close. But I'm putting a little bit of respect on my. Here's what's going to happen in this game. Before I give you the score, the problem with this game is I think, and by this time of the season we're going to know. I don't know offensively. I don't have faith in any of Miami's position players, their receivers and all of that. I think they like their defense. I think they have no idea what they have on offense. I don't know if TVD, again, I don't know. Everybody thinks just because they're going back to an air raid that is going to be like Rhett Lashley all over again. There's a reason why Rhett Lashley is the coach he is, and this guy that they brought in is the coach he is. Just because it's the same scheme doesn't mean you're going to get the same results with a different coach. I'm going to be very interested to see what TVD brings to the table this year. I got 38-13 Florida State. I think I could see it being competitive for a quarter and a half. I could even see this game being like 21-13 at halftime. Ultimately, I don't think Miami has the firepower to stay with Florida State, and I don't think they necessarily have the defense to contain Florida State for an entire game. Do I think they have some good players on defense? Yes. But if they haven't addressed that counter, it's going to be very similar down the stretch in that game. It may be a very similar game plan where we start the game throwing the ball. Once we realize we can run the ball at will, the only reason why the score won't be more is because Florida State. I think Miami have a more improved team, but I don't know. I don't see where, just on paper, I don't see where Miami's better at any position. At any one position other than what? Safety. And safety's not going to win or lose you any – well, it might lose you a ball game, but safety's not going to win you any ball game. So we move on from Miami. Northern Alabama. Look, I'm not going to predict Northern Alabama. That's a 50 burger. That might even be a 60 burger. You score, pick them. Florida State by a lot against Northern Alabama. And then Florida. This game is easier to predict than the Miami game. Because I don't even know if Graham Mertz is going to be the starting quarterback by the time we play this game. I think they are going to be so inept offensively that even if their defense is a bright spot, I think Florida's offense is going to let them down to the point where the defense is going to be burnt. I got an FSU 41-10 over Florida. I don't think Florida's going to be able to score, and I think that defense is going to be burnt out by the end of that thing. And Florida State will have a couple gimme touchdowns because that defense is just going to be burnt. I got 41-10 over Florida. So as you can see, I got an 11-1 season. And I said it when we got Keon Coleman. I thought he was good enough to win you maybe one of these swing games. 11-1 going into the ACC championship game where I think we get to get back on Clemson in a neutral site. I like our chances there. Well, ultimately, I got 11-1. If you want to flip-flop Clemson and LSU, I hear you. I think you will lose one of those two games. If I'm just being unbiased, I think you will lose either LSU or Clemson. But it's hard to me to see another loss on that schedule because you're just flat out better than everybody else on that schedule. You're just flat out better. You're going to have to show me another team on that schedule that has the talent that you have, and I don't think that they're there. God forbid we go 4-0, because then it gets real spooky in college football town. So that is what I got game by game. You heard it here. That is my prediction, man. 11-1 regular season. I do think it'll have an 11-1 regular season. And as long as we take care of business in the ACC title game, I think we will be playoff bound. We will be playoff bound. I think a one-loss Florida State gets in. So I got us 11-1, 12-1 after the ACC title game. And I think I said it a couple weeks ago. My Final Four: Texas, Michigan, Florida State, USC. I don't think the SEC makes it. I know that's a shocker. I know people are going to be like, what? This guy's nuts. I think Georgia drops 2 games this year. And I think every team in the SEC at least drops 2 games this year. I think the SEC sits out of the championship game for the first time in the playoff for the first time since its inception. I know it's a pipe dream. I know I'm probably dead ass wrong on that prediction. USC will probably fail me down the stretch. I think Texas has one of the most talented rosters in the country. They'll find a way to lose 3 or 4 games like they've always done. But ultimately, if Texas beats Bama, watch out for Texas. And again, I don't know, man. I just got a feeling. I think all respect to Georgia. They're the champs until someone knocks them off that pedestal. I think Georgia might lose a couple games. I really do. If we go 4-0, yeah, the floodgates open and Florida State starts the season 4-0 because there's nothing coming after that. That's even in the same category. You go 4-0, you ain't really seeing anything until maybe Miami. You're going to find out what Miami is because they play Texas A&M. Florida plays Utah. So you're going to see what some of these teams are fairly early. I know Georgia's schedule isn't great, but they do play Tennessee, right? They are going to play potentially in the ACC championship against Alabama. Again, they play Tennessee. Don't they play Auburn? I mean, Hugh Freeze is going to be a whole different kind of coach. Don't sleep on South Carolina, man. I think they're going to be a sneaky team in the SEC this year. South Carolina is kind of my sleeper in that conference. I don't know how good of a head coach Beamer is, but I do know he can recruit. And he found a way to beat Clemson last year. Watch out for South Carolina. I think the playing field between Tennessee and Georgia might be a little closer. Georgia lost some guys, but Tennessee also lost some guys, so that might be a 50-50. I don't know, man. I just have a feeling. I can't back it up with nothing. I just got a feeling. If I'm scared, go to church, bro. Maybe I should go to church. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm scared. I'm just saying. 11-1. Hey, you think if the playoff is Florida State, USC, Michigan, and Texas, you think we could win it all? Hey, but there's a reason why football games aren't played on paper. I want you to go look at Georgia and Missouri last year and told me that game should have been close. Again, there's a reason football games aren't played on paper. I know what everybody's saying about the schedule. There's a reason games aren't played on paper, man. And until Kirby Smart shows me he can do it without Stetson Bennett, again, I want to see it. I don't want to say he lucked into Stetson Bennett, but I watched Kirby Smart choose Jake Fromm over Justin Fields and kind of ruin the quarterback position there at Georgia. I'm very interested to see what they do at Georgia at that quarterback spot because, I have my reasons. I have my own reasons why I don't think Georgia's going to go 3-peat. Definitely. That's what I think is going to happen this year. I think it's going to cannibalize itself. They might win the SEC. I think they'll take a couple L's in the process, though. I think they're going to lose to Texas, and I think they could lose another SEC. That's two. It's not unrealistic to think Bama could still win the SEC and still lose 2 games. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida State. Ohio State has to beat Michigan, so I can't pick Ohio State over Michigan because they have yet to find a way to beat them. There will not be 2 SEC teams. I just don't see it, but I could be wrong. My problem with Bama is for this reason right here. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. I understand that aspect, especially Texas. But Southern Cal, I mean, who's stopping them? I guess maybe they're stopping themselves. Yes, a 2-loss SEC team misses a 2-loss any team misses the playoff. Unless you're telling me that there's a bunch of other 2-loss teams, then we're back at square one. But a 2-loss SEC team doesn't get in there. Non-zero chance of a Clemson No, there will be only. I don't see 2 ACC teams. I mean, I guess theoretically, unless Clemson's 1 loss and we're 1 loss. I mean, I guess. Who is Clemson's big out-of-conference? Do they have a big out-of-conference game this year? They play Notre Dame again, don't they? I don't know if Notre Dame's a good enough team or big enough game to get them into the playoff if they were to lose to Florida State. Even if we split the games, I just don't know. If we're 1 loss and we have a split against Clemson and just an overall victory over LSU, I definitely think we get the nod. I agree with Matt. I've been saying that for a while. If Texas puts it together, they have a roster to make a legit run. You could see it now. LSU's more of a viable rematch option than Clemson. Because if we beat LSU game 1 and they run the table, and we beat LSU and we run the table or have 1 loss and then run the table, there's a chance that you could see a rematch there. I don't know. What is the chance? 70-30 chance we only see Clemson once. And that 30% probably goes to Louisville because they have a cakewalk through the ACC. If they're just halfway decent, there's a chance that they could – there's a chance. There's a chance that they could – they don't play us. They don't play Clemson, I believe. So just right there. Like if they're the 3rd best team in the conference, but they don't have to play the 2 best teams in the conference, they could theoretically go undefeated in ACC play and get the winner of Florida State Clemson. So, but hey guys, if y'all tuned in tonight, appreciate y'all for coming out to tuning in. Again, this is the last time y'all are gonna see me until LSU. You already know I will be going live after LSU. Because of the schedule, wasn't able to go to Orlando for that game. I really wanted to, but I won't be in Orlando. But I will be live over here on 863 Seminole TV. Y'all already know what we do. Once the season starts, y'all already know. Every Saturday, y'all get it here first. Instant reaction, instant game reactions, your halftime reaction. Come over to 863 Seminole TV for all of that content. Y'all know how we get pumping during the season, man. Halftime reactions, instant game reactions, game previews and reviews during the week. Can't wait for the season. I'm excited for this season. Florida State fans should be excited for this season. So y'all going to see me in September, but y'all will not see me for August. Again, hit the like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share the videos, please. That's how we continue to grow the tribe. And share the video. Oh, and subscribe. Subscribe, of course. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you're not new, but for whatever reason, just watch me, but don't subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, man. Subscribe to the channel. But as always, man, it's your boy Polk over here on 863 Seminole TV. Please stay classy, Seminoles. And we are out here. Go Noles. Get ready for the season, y'all. It should be fireworks.